Welcome to Old School Garage, and as I promised, I'm going to be back at the Capri Club. This is part 2 and this is the finishing episode because as we talked with John the last time, he promised I can come back and he's going to show us around with the Mark II, Mark III Capri. So stay with us, it's going to be an interesting one. Right, so we start with the first car. First Mark II, and this one is a special one, isn't it, John?
Well, they're all special. This is top of the range, almost. Hasn't got the 3-litre engine, but it is a gear, so it's a 2-litre specification. But I say top of the range, it's got the armchair type front seats. It's not for a sporting driver. This is the executive model. Lots of chrome, lots of bling. I mean, look at that luggage compartment. It's got the mouldings for skidding your golf clubs in or whatever. This would be covered, I'll show you a bit later on, with a vinyl decking, and that of course is the notorious tailgate liner or wiper motor cover, the thing that always gets damaged. This one's been removed because we're retrofitting a really period spoiler that came with this car. I'm not certain it's actually genuine Ford. It is rather unusual. And there we have it. So.
Okay, so the interior on this car, it's quite luxurious, isn't it?
It's very, I mean, look at the back seats there. Yeah, they're even more comfortable than the front. There's a grab handle on the passenger side.
Yeah, it's all...
And it's a sunroof model, vinyl sunroof model. And loads of chrome bumpers, you know, polished aluminium around all the window apertures. Chrome mirrors, chrome handles, chrome finishes on the screen.
Yeah, it's
rubbers.
all...
You'll see later on, this slowly disappeared in the favour of black. So we've changed from a 2-door coupe into a 3-door coupe. Massive luggage carrying capacity. Still a 4-seater, but of course, with the advantage of pushing that down, which they do go flat, you can get your step ladders in there.
Yeah, it's quite a big car now,
except if you were an executive, you wouldn't be putting that sort of stuff in there. The spare wheel remains in the well, very similar to the Mark I. The fuel tank now is slung underneath the back rather than between the bulkhead and the seats.
Yeah, because it was here on a Mark I.
That's it.
Excellent.
So I've actually used what we call the tonneau panel off that 2-litre gear as a backdrop, just to show you the range of badges. It's only just a range of these badges that we either fitted. This is obviously Mark I, and then we move on to Mark II. No badges there for the Mark III. These are, guess what they spell? Obviously Ford.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Just to show it to the viewers, how many different...
But you can see that going from the Mark I Capri, where there were that many options, there were never two cars the same. And obviously these badges represent all those changes. So it could be anything from a 1300 up to a 3-litre. It could be anything from an L to a GL or a GXL. I haven't got a GXL badge because they're quite rare. But the Ford badge didn't actually appear till we saw it on the Mark III. Okay, so this is the base model for the Mark II. 2-pod dash as opposed to a 6-pod. You've got very basic vinyl seats. If you look in the back, so this has got the basic bench seat in the back. Okay, the chrome bumpers have been deleted in the favour of black. As a cost-cutting exercise. So moving around to the front, I'll show you what I mean. So that would have been, this is by the way typical of how cars are started and then never get any further till they get here. But that's your black bumper. This has actually got a moulding. You'd be surprised, but in fact there are 3 bumpers for the Mark II. The black one could either have a rubber moulding and a black bumper, or it could have no moulding at all, or if it was a Ghia, it would have chrome bumpers. There's one other bumper which would be white, and that belonged to the JPS. Now the JPS, as everybody remembers, were done in black, but there were some white ones. The white ones had white bumpers.
Really? So they was extra rare?
They were extra rare. Going back to headlights,
yes.
we all associate the headlight with the Capri with, you know, quad headlights, but in fact that's wrong. You know, the Mark II had these lovely rectangular lights, and then the indicators were set in the back. As a base model, the rear wiper is missing, and obviously the rear wash is missing, which saved a lot of money because that expensive bit of plastic, which always got broken, was replaced by vinyl and hardboard, and that's the correct one for this car. And this is just happens to be a black one fitted to this one here.
Right.
Because the problem with you're having to cover the motor, right, is that as soon as you put any luggage in there, or too much luggage, or if the luggage moved, as soon as you went like that, it shattered your ABS moulded wiper motor cover.
Yeah.
So that is the grille for the Mark II. But of course, you know, you could have a choice depending on the specification you'd ordered it.
Okay, so this is just a plain black.
That would probably be on the JPS, where everything was black, even the lettering was Ford, and then later on they capped it with the polished aluminium.
Polished aluminium, okay.
But these are really popular because the Mark III Capri, this would actually go straight in, and most of these have now disappeared because they're in Mark III owners' hands. Right, so this is an ex-track day car, which meant that it did very little mileage once it was converted to a track day car, and as happens with so many track day cars, owners get bored with them. Nobody wants to buy an ex-track day car
because they think it's ramped.
That's it. But of course, what's happening now is they're all being returned to standard. Interesting thing about this particular model, although this was a Ghia, it's now going to be an S. So we've added the S spoiler, right?
Okay, that's the S spoiler.
That's the S spoiler. Now that particular shape was carried on into the Mark III and built into the bodywork. We'll move on into the interior. As I say, this car was stripped down completely because, you know, trying to save weight, which they obviously achieved. Right, so as a track day car, it was stripped out completely. I think this must have been done many years ago, because obviously it's not had a chance to rot out, so it's a beautiful floor pan. But what I'm going to discuss now is, this is the floor pan of the Mark II Capri. It's exactly the same as the floor pan of a Mark I, except for a few ribbings to mount the seats in slightly different places. But the architecture of the structure down here is exactly the same. So obviously it's the same wheelbase, but all these pressings are much the same. They reinforced across between the arches, and in order to make it into a 3-door coupe and that massive hole in the back, they added lots of reinforcement to the C-posts. These are the C-posts, these flying buttresses which run down here. Still uses the same sills, but why does the car look completely different? That's because, and I'll come around there and show you. So why does the car look completely different to a Mark I? Well, these sills are identical, but the bodywork then comes out and then in, making the car wider. So obviously the front wings are different, the doors are different, and the back wings are different, and the actual roof structure. So the architecture of the vehicle is much the same, the inner skin's the same, but they completely transformed it by kicking it out, and that's why it looks completely different. Yeah. And when we move on to the Mark III, you'll see just those little tweaks that they made to change the shape of the Mark II into the Mark III. Well, before we go and discuss the Mark III, we'll look at some of the interiors that are optional, which makes the Capri so appealing. And we start here with a pair of very worn laser seats. The laser, of course, was one of the last Capris to be produced, and the trim was all the same. So we'd lost that variation, but we'll go and have a look at some of the interiors that were available. Well, as you can see, a wealth of interiors. It's too difficult to explain all the colour options, but there's a lot of Recaro seats here, and I can't see any. There is a pair of base model LS seats over there, but the rest of this interior is probably, well, it is S or 2.8 injection. And the far left over there is the Brooklands interior, which we've got a vehicle I can show you what it looks like for real.
It's a huge amount of collection of seats.
Well, yes, you can't have too many seats.
Yes, I completely with you on that subject, because this is lovely just to show it to the viewers. Yeah. So we got a row of seats coming all the way. I mean, the color of this is just amazing. It's a nice collection, and it's in really good nick. Are they been retrimmed?
Well, the thing is, some have been repaired, some are really nice early stuff, so it's done no mileage. I think there's a set here that's been recovered. The problem is getting the checked material. It's very limited. I've just got the odd metre, and I'm trying to save everything I can.
I don't blame you, because it's rare to get these materials now.
The Mark III, developed from the Mark II. You'll notice this front valance now almost replicates the S spoiler that was fitted to the Mark II. The bonnet's much the same, except those eyebrows have now been brought forward, which meant that the quad headlights, which were now standard, okay,
it goes into a bezel.
Goes into a bezel, yes, which I'll try and fit. I'll try and fit it for you, just to explain it. Quad headlights as standard now, discreetly fitted by these. These were colour coded. The first of the 2.8s and the first of the base models, these would all have been black, but later on they were colour coded to the car. The grille now there's only one option, that's it. These were always black till they moved on to colour coding them. It's a veneer foil design, which really does improve engine cooling. And of course the option chrome has gone. They're all going to have black bumpers, but for the Mark III the bumper was extended down here, because the wings are slightly different to include this sort of spoiler effect. We have these plastic mouldings down here.
So what's with the interior, John? These are slightly different now.
Well, this is it. This is the laser range. All the interiors are the same. They all feature a 6-pod dashboard, which is out of this car, but actually it's 6 instruments. So that base model of just the twin clocks has now disappeared.
They all got sunroofs.
All the laser range, so there's only the 1602 litre, they were all fitted with a sunroof. It just became easier for the manufacturer, and I think probably everybody wanted to order one with a sunroof.
You had an option not to order it with sunroof?
No, you couldn't. You could later on in production, you could not delete it from the specification. Yeah, they are notorious problem areas, because it's not meant to be waterproof. This might be worth saying, because a lot of people think it should be waterproof. The water is allowed to go past the dust seal, and then it is channeled by 4 tubes down the A posts and down the B posts, and the channels run into the sills, which of course doesn't do anything for rust prevention.
Because it's especially if you got like a blocked tube.
Yeah.
You're going to be flooding inside the car.
I don't think it will flood, because they are really big diameter. What it does do, it just runs all the water along the sill and then drips out the sill. Now the reason they did that, you know, if you think about it, if they had 4 tubes running down onto the floor, and you park your car and it's pouring down with rain, and you walk up to your car and there's water gushing out at the bottom, you'd be a bit apprehensive. But by allowing the water to run the whole length of the sill and then just dribble out along its full length, you'd never noticed it was leaking water.
Yes.
So the advantage of this is we've got the door off here. Is I can show you the problem areas. We get a lot of problems here because it's made of about 3 different layers of metal, and of course there's nothing between those layers of metal, so this is where the corrosion starts. But this particular example is absolutely beautiful. These are the original wings on this car.
Wow.
Yeah, which is unusual. So how can you tell it's an original wing other than it fits really well? The giveaway is just under here, is the way it's pressing. You won't be able to see it on camera. Often if you're at a car show, you'll see people walking up to your Capri and doing that. And they're basically just checking it's got genuine wings on.
Right, that's how you tell.
That's how you
it's
can
still
tell.
a genuine.
You can look at the panel gaps, but some coach builders are so good at fitting aftermarket wings that you'd never spot it. But for the amateur, you will end up with a panel gap which is not parallel. Yeah, so this of course fills up with water all the while, constantly, which is why the bottom of the headlamp buckets rot out completely.
Right, interesting.
So this is a genuine 3 litre JPS, or what's left of a genuine 3 litre JPS, non-sunroof model. Still got some of the original pinstriping. I was going to open the bonnet for you, but oh, there you go. Look at that. It's still open and closed.
It's quite empty, John.
So there you can see the problems with corrosion. As I mentioned before, the strut tops, they don't always corrode, but the wings have a tendency to rot away, as does the leading edge of the bonnet and these headlamp buckets. Although in this case, as I said before, they normally rot out. This one's not rotted out around there yet. So it could benefit from a pair of wings and a lot of paint preparation. As I mentioned, it's got the JPS stripes, but the doors have been changed, look, for S doors off the Mark III. Just goes to show the interchangeability. I can tell straight away that they're Mark III doors because of the S stripes. And we'll go and have a look at a really nice 3 litre S in a moment. This is the S stripe that I just referred to on that door of that JPS Mark II. So this is the top of the range 3 litre S with the Recaro trim.
It's very pretty inside.
What more can I say? This particular car never been MOT'd because it only ever did 2 years of motoring. I think it's done about 12,000 miles, and then it was just laid up. So this is the engine bay of your 3 litre. Tubular manifolds are standard. What we've been working on here, because this car was Zybarted from new, which is a black sticky substance that was literally sprayed on every component under here. We've had to take this back to the red because it looks silly being completely black. And in the process, we've changed a few plated items because this is such an exceptionally low original mileage car. It justifies spending the time. The carburettor at the moment, because she's been stood since those first 2 years of motoring, we've had to have it rebuilt, cleaned out. But the rest of the components are absolutely original. Things like the Ford sticker on the radiator, all these little green bits of dabs of paint, they're all original.
Yeah, it looks mint.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic condition.
So this is the holy grail of components, an original luggage compartment cover. They were easily destroyed simply by putting big speakers in. But this particular car still uses the minute speakers hidden under these little shelves here. So it's avoided any customization. Moving on to the last Capri to be produced, the Brooklands 280. No chrome, everything's black. It's one colour only, Brooklands green. Only one choice of interior, so it's not a choice, is it really? Which is the Raven interior with burgundy piper. Full leather, okay. It's your standard 2.8 injection running gear, with the exception of the 15-inch RS alloy wheels. So Only 1,038 ever produced. As I say, it's badged as a 280. They were going to badge it as a Capri 500. And in fact, on the drawing board were those decals that said Capri 500. And it was going to have gold wheels and it was going to have quarter bumpers. But all that was deleted. And when they started making them and realised they got enough body shells to produce more than 500, that fell by the wayside. So that's
why they never turn into be a 500.
That's never going to be a Capri 500. So it's a Capri 280.
So while we're on the subject of how many cars been ever produced, because you're an expert, why Mark II turned into a Mark III? Why they call it a Mark III? And how many Mark III produced and how many Mark II?
I don't know the answer to that one. I know that they made 1.8 something million altogether, and they certainly made more Mark I Capris and Mark IIs and Mark IIIs, as I recall. A lot of cars compared to like MGBs and Triumphs, for instance. You know.
Huge amount of cars, yeah. That's why it's huge amount of people still interested to buy Capris, because everybody's dad had one or somebody had it in a family.
I'll give you some maths. If they made 2 million, and every one of those 2 million cars had at least 10 owners. So that's 20 million, isn't it?
Yes.
And that 20 million, how many were like in the family said, oh yeah, my uncle had it. So you're talking like, you know, not just them 20 million people that owned it, but more like 10 times the amount of people that were associated with it. You know, were in the back seats, in the drop passenger seat, or worked on them, you know, bought and sold. That's more than the whole population of the UK. So
every family had one.
Everybody's got a connection with the Ford Capri.
It's very true.
And in conclusion, just to confirm it, I'm not getting bald. Am I?
Well, your forehead looks a bit longer than last time.
And look at that. After 40 years, it shuts like a golf.
Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed this episode as well, and huge thank you for John and the Capri Club to show us around in this amazing collection. And if you've not seen part one, all these cars was in part one, so I'll leave you a link just above my hand, whichever side. So John, super grateful you show us around in this amazing Capri collection, and all the parts and all this store and the story, I think was just amazing.
Oh, well, I'm pleased you've enjoyed it.
I loved it, mate, and I've seen cars I'm not seeing same as this convertible in part one. So these are just amazing looking cars, and it's just so nice to see somebody indulging themselves with their hobby, rebuilding the cars they love, and save them for the future generations.
That's all it's about, saving them.
Yeah. And it's so nice. We went through all the cars, you know, when they come in here, in the state they come in a barn fine state, and you turn them out and they turn into be these sorts of cars, you know. I mean, it's...
Well, I enjoy every minute of being the custodian of all these,
Yeah, it's so great to see, and hope the next generations, down the line, your son and everybody else is keep doing and bringing these cars back, and hopefully we're going to enjoy it for the next hundreds of years.
Well, maybe 100.
Maybe 100. John, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and thank you. This is the...
So if you're new to the channel and you're not subscribed yet, there is the time, and please hit that like button as well, because John's story is absolutely amazing. And hope we see somebody else with their story. Bye.